Welcome to another edition of RockSim Live. Today's a special day. I'm your host, Tim Van Milligan. What makes it so special is that we're releasing 10.3 today. In fact, it's kind of embarrassing, I'll have to admit, but we released 10.3 last night, and some people have already gotten notifications on it and have downloaded it. And the first bug was also discovered last night. So there's going to be a 10.3.1, and we're going to do that hot fix today. So if you haven't downloaded it yet, just hold off for maybe a few more hours and we'll upload 10.3.1. The 0.1 means it's the bug fix. Yeah, it's very embarrassing. It happens. It's such a complex program, and what we discovered in this edition, it was kind of there was a certain file that if you had a certain button checked, it would cause it to crash when you open the file. If the button was unchecked, then it would work just fine, but we want to make that change real quick so that you won't have it. And it's a really oddball design. So it's not a design that you would probably even find, but it happens. So we're gonna fix it real quick and get that out. So if you're here for the first time, I'd like to say hello. We got a bunch of people here. Let me say hello to some people. Joe Noble, Joseph Dunning from, I'm not sure where Joseph, from New Mexico. Jeff Joranson, Joshua Drummond, Don Thomas, Ronald Zacher, Ralph Strasser, Al Anzik, Mark Bartkowek. Hello, everyone. Welcome. As you can see, let me bring up my desktop. If you come here to the Apogee website, you'll see we now have update to RockSim 10.3 from 10.2. So if you're watching this on our YouTube archive, which you can get to on our website, let me show you how to get there if you're here for the first time. This image right here that says RockSim Live, you can click on that, or you can go up here to How To and Guides. Click on that, come to Software, and then over here to RockSim Live Training. And this is where you will come. This is where you'll find all of our back episodes. If you have a question about RockSim, and it might have already been answered. If you're in a hurry, if you're watching this on YouTube, you just come over here, and you can, once you're on the web page, do a Control F on your keyboard, or on the Mac, it's Command F, and it will bring up a little find box for this specific page only. So you could do like sub-assembly, and you can see there's two matches. Here's the first one down here. Let me go to it. And so that's the second one. So that will tell you in that episode. You can click on the YouTube link and you can scrub to 24 minutes and you would find that particular item on sub-assemblies. Okay, so if, like I said before, 10.3 has been released, we're gonna be issuing the 10.3.1, the bug fix for that one little problem. And I've been kind of talking about what has been the new features in this version. And the first thing you'll see is finding parts. So if you're in the parts tree, you can just click on a part and it's going to highlight the part somewhere down here in your rocket. So if you have a lot of things that are all named the same, like body tube, centering ring, and if you click on them, it'll tell you where exactly that ring is. And one of the things that I forgot to do is to make my cursor a little bit bigger so that you can see it. So let me go ahead and do that real quick here. Go to display, go to cursor, and make the cursor larger. So now you can see where my cursor is on the screen. I move my cursor around so fast that you might not see it, so I want to get that caught up. Okay, we got Brian Barbles. I'm looking over here at a monitor, so I am paying attention because I want to see what you want to say. Bill Lindsay Jr. says, hello, Tim. Great to visit and fly with you last week down in Pueblo. Bill Lindsay was part of the TARC team that we hosted at our club launch site last week. So all the TARC finals are now over. They did good. They were the site winner. I won't say, well, I will. They were the only team that showed up for our site. So they were the winner of the Pueblo launch site of all the TARC teams that showed up. They did good. They had 2 successful flights. Everything worked, no disqualification. The egg was just fine. So they'd had a qualifying score. I don't know if they won because I don't know the final results, but congratulations to that team. We have Joshua Drummond is asking a question. When I load a lock coupler for a 3.9-inch airframe, the outer diameter is smaller than the inner diameter, causing an error. I manually change this. Is there something I'm missing? It's probably because there is an error in the database for the lock coupler. Let me quickly show you a couple of the new features. So the big feature here is you can click on the parts up here and it will highlight them down here. And you can also do it in reverse. You can click on a part down here and it highlights it up here in the parts tree so that you can go and edit it. So that is one of the cool features. The other cool thing that we did is on the custom fin screen. So if you open and edit a custom fin, let me resize this screen here so you can see it all. Make sure that my face is not covering it down here in the corner. We redesigned the plan point screen. So this is a new screen. You can size it. On Windows, you don't have that little dot right here. But if you move your cursor up and down, you'll see that it will change shape. You'll get maybe a double arrow, one pointing up, one pointing down. That means you can click right there and drag it up or down. You can only drag it up so high, but you can drag it down small, and that makes this screen bigger. You can also drag this one larger, so you can minimize the actual plan point locations, so you can get a big screen as possible. And then on this screen, with your mouse, you can use your finger or your fingers like this to scroll in and out so you can see, see things better. You can, zoom in on a point if you want to get like really fine detail and move a point just a little bit. You can do that. So that's cool. You can also click and drag and move it around. If you take a point and you want to move it off to the, to a different point, you can see that the screen is automatically reducing in size. So you can move that point further and further away, just like that. So that is a new feature. I'm going to cancel this and go back to the main screen. I'll say no. Another new feature is on the 2D screen. So the 2D screen is this button right here. You can either do a side view or a top view or a base view. Those are your 3 choices in 2D. So once you select one of those, now you have 2 new buttons that weren't here before. You have zoom in and zoom out. So you can really zoom in. But you can also do it again with your fingers on your scroll wheel. So you just take your scroll wheel and you can zoom in, you can click and drag. So, we showed this before. If you we're doing through the wall custom fins and you wanted to avoid a centering ring like right here, you would zoom in so you could adjust your parameters really close so that you get really good precision on things. So that's what that feature is all about. We released these new features because we also fixed a number of bugs. If you would like a list of the things that we fixed, you can come here to how-to and guides on our website, apogeerockets.com. Go to software and come down here to version history. Click on that and then scroll down here to version 10.3, which is right there, and it zooms you down to this page. So here were all the bug fixes, and we issue bug fixes especially when there's something that crashes the software, because we don't want you to be interrupted in your work. So we'll fix those crashes. And then because it's such a hassle to do an update, we also add in new features to kind of entice you to make those updates. There were some new rocket motors added in this version. There's some new Quest motors that have been just released. So when you do the upgrade, it's going to ask you, do you want to update your databases? And because of the new motors, we would recommend yes, so you have the latest motor files. Okay, Mark Sell is here. And Mark Sell also had a question. He emailed us about subassemblies in nose cones, so I'll see if I can get to that. So the first one was Joshua Drummond. He had a question about a 98mm tube coupler. So let's start a new design. So you come up here to File, New. I'm going to click on that, and I'm not going to save this design. I don't care about it. And this gives you a blank screen. So this is if you were just starting RockSim, you would get a blank screen like this. And so when you want to start a design, you kind of work along these tabs from the left to the right. One of the other changes that we changed in this version is we finally were able to track down that little bug that made you have to click on the word attributes instead of being able to click over here to click on this tab. So that bug went away too. So you would work along these screens, and I'm just going to give it a name here, say test. And I'm going to use the RockSim stability equations. And I don't need to change anything else here, except for I want to take credit for it. So when you make a design, take credit for it. You know, put your name in here so that we know who actually made this design, so we can thank you for doing it. So now you go to the next tab is the design components. And when you get to this screen, these are the list of components that you can add. Some of them are grayed out because you can't start a design with a fin, for example. You have to start it with one of these components. Typically, when you design a rocket, you start from the nose cone and then you work down to the tail. That's just a tip. I've seen people that try to start from the tail and work up, and it gets a little complicated, and I've seen errors crop up. So work from the tip down. So we're going to add a nose cone, and he wants a 98mm nose cone, so I need to find something big. Am I seeing anything that's 4 inches or 98mm? If you don't see what you're looking for, okay, here's one. Lock precision 3.9, which is actually 4 inch. The lock's naming convention is a little bit different, where normally, you know, we name parts from their outer diameter. On lock, they're naming it from the inner diameter, which might make sense. For example, you know, when you're picking a motor tube and you want to pick a 75mm motor tube, that's the inside diameter. But most people or most rocket companies like Estes and Quest and Aerotech use outer diameter instead of inner diameter. So this is the hard part of rocketry, is trying to figure out what the names of parts are and how they correlate. Does this part fit with this part? And this is what happens around Apogee all the time, is customers are always calling us up and they say, does this 3.9 inch nose cone fit with a 98 millimeter tube? And the answer is yes, it does fit, but because of the ambiguity, I can see where people have problems. And I wish I had a solution for you. The actual solution is to think like an engineer and actually use the dimensions. And that's what Joshua is doing right here. He's looking at the dimensions. So let's pick a 3.9 inch nose cone, click OK. And this is the editor screen right here. This is the base screen. So let me kind of make this bigger here so that we're only looking at the editor screen and you're not confused by what's going on behind. So the outer diameter, even though the name was 3.9 inch tube, the outer diameter is actually 4 inches. And you see that right here. It's also listed up here. I'm going to click OK because I don't need to change anything here. And now we're going to add a body tube to this. And I need to add a 3.9 inch tube or a 98 millimeter tube or a 4 inch diameter tube. They're all the same. They should all fit. So I'm looking over here in my diameter column. I'm just kind of scrolling down. 3.9 inch. There's an always ready rocketry. This is a blue tube. Click OK. And I know that it's blue tube because it's from Always Ready Rocketry. That's what they make. Blue tube is it's a paper tube that's been impregnated with a vulcanized rubber resin. And it gives, that resin is kind of a bluish, grayish tint. And that's where it gets the name blue tube. Because it's impregnated, it's paper that's impregnated with a resin, it makes it more dense, so it's a heavier tube, but it's also a more impact resistant tube. So it's harder to crease them. So it has some advantages, but it has disadvantages too. So you really need to know, what you want to use it for. I'm going to make this a bit shorter, so I'm just grabbing the length slider right here, and I'm just sliding it shorter. And I'm going to say OK. And now Joshua's question was a lock 3.9 inch coupler. So to this, I'm going to attach a coupler. So I'm going to click on the coupler button. And now I'm looking for a lock 3.9 inch coupler. So it's sorted by manufacturer. And I'm going to scroll down to the lock. Okay, so now we're in the lock. And we have a 3.9 inch coupler. So let's click OK on that. And so now we're in the editor screen again. The first time you open up a new screen, there's a default size, and then you can change it. And then the next time you come to it, it should remember what size it was at before. So we shouldn't have to resize it more than one time. So the outer diameter, it's got this little checkbox that says automatically calculate the known values. And because of that, it's trying to automatically size that coupler. So I am not seeing that the inside diameter is greater than the outside diameter. So right now my outside diameter is 3.9 inches. Inside diameter is 3.83. So that's a difference of 0.070 inches. And you divide that by 2, and then you get 0.035, and that's the wall thickness of that coupler, which is a little bit thin for a 4-inch tube. And that's why Lock makes what's called a stiffy coupler. So the stiffy coupler goes inside this thin wall coupler and makes it a lot thicker. It's because I know exactly why they do it, because I wanted a 98 millimeter coupler for Apogee for our kits, like our Katana kit. Here's our coupler inside. I don't know if you can see it right here. That coupler, I had to have a special mandrel made so that I could wind the tube so I could get a big thickness without having to put a stiffy on the inside. So lock, when they originally, long time ago, that mandrel wasn't available at the manufacturer. So they used whatever mandrel was available and wound around that to create the coupler. And because the available mandrel had such a large diameter, they could only get a thin wall. I had to go through the expense of making it a thick wall. So I paid for that. Speaking of the katana, we are going to give away a poster of the katana today. It's not this poster that you see back here on my wall. You can't see it. That poster right there. Let me get this out of the way so you can see my katana poster. But this is the actual poster that we're giving away. So it's a little bit smaller, and it looks a lot nicer too. So we're going to give this one away as a gift for people that are showing up to watch this live video. So you got to show up to have a chance to play. And I need to pick somebody that's going to be the winner. And I'm going to pick the first person that submitted a question online today, and that was Joshua Drummond. So Joshua Drummond, you win the katana poster. And make sure you contact us, Joshua, so that we have your address so that we can ship that to you. And because I just released the poster, I bet you half of you are going to leave. I hope not, though. I'm just joking. I know you're here for the information. So let's see if we can find the answer to Joshua's question. So if I go in the database, I'm going to go here to database. So click on the database. I'm going to say choose from database. I want to see if I can actually get the dimensions of this. And of course I can't. I only get the part number and the description. So let's click cancel there. And I'm going to cancel out of this screen because I think, save my changes, no. Because I think the first time I did it, I could see the dimensions of the coupler. So I'm going to click on the coupler again. No, it doesn't. Let me choose that lock coupler again. 3.9 inches. Okay. Hey, that should have remembered my screen size. Maybe because I hit cancel. Let me do uncheck this. If I uncheck that, nope, it's still not doing it. Let me move this coupler. See if I'll look in one more place. So I'm moving the coupler over here to the back end. I'll click OK. Whoa! That just crashed. Okay, so we got another bug to fix. That shouldn't have happened. Oh man, how embarrassing is that? Okay, so what I wanted to do was I wanted to look in the database. So I want to edit the database, and I wanted to go to couplers, tube couplers right here. So this should bring up our database, and it does. Let me make this screen bigger. Let me scroll down. It's a little bit slow right now. Okay, so we're going to the lock. Okay, so here is the lock coupler. So I'm looking for the 3.9 inch, which is this line here, line number 45. And I'm just actually seeing the diameters are actually in the database, and the diameters are correct. 3.83 and 3.9. So I can't answer your question, Joshua. But if you discover a part that's not behaving properly, you can go into this database editor like I'm doing here, and you can edit an item. So I could edit this inside diameter right here and click OK. And then when I bring it up as a part, it should change it. So I'm going to click OK and see if there's any other questions. So Reggie Morrow asks, is it easy to update Macs? And the answer is yes. But when you update on the Mac, it's like a brand new program, and it leaves the old program alone. So you're going to download this new program, 10.3, and it's going to leave 10.2 alone. So you're going to have two versions of RockSim on your computer. And I can show you what that looks like because I have a Mac, as you can see. So here I'm in my applications folder right here. And if I scroll down, I got RockSim 10.1 build 174, 10.2 F37, and we have 10.3.0 F36. So this is the current version. And as I said, there's going to be a 10.3.1. So when you download the new version, and it's like downloading the whole thing. You're not partially downloading only the changes. It's the whole thing. And on Windows, we do recommend downloading the full thing too. In fact, there's a button that says just download the updates, but because there is database changes, you gotta do the full version. So you might end up with also two versions of RockSim on Windows, similar to this. And then once you update it, you can, inside of here is your design folder where all your designs are stored, all the ones that come with it. I don't know if you're storing yours there when you're creating new ones for yourself, but if you are, they're still in that folder. And if you want to clean things up, you would take that design folder and drag it to wherever you want it to go. So like I could drag it here to my desktop, or I could drag it into another folder, or wherever you want to store it. It's totally up to you. But by default, it's in the application folder is where your designs are stored. Okay, so going back here to my screen, Joe Batera, what pod do you use to place a ring on the outside of a body tube? Some kits have motor retainer wires and the rings outside versus the inside engine retainer. So I'm trying to picture this. What pod do you use to place a ring on the outside of a body tube? Some kits have motor retainer wires and rings the outside versus the inside retainer. Joe, if you have a example kit that you're thinking of, can you put that in the comments? And I will try to imagine what you're trying to describe there. Mark Sell says, thanks for last week's poster. I had to remove a picture of the president to display it. The president didn't sign his, and I signed mine because I want to make sure that the value of the poster doesn't change. By signing it, the value stays at 0 because nobody wants my autograph. Okay. Checking the automatic values is fixing it for me now, says Joseph Drummond about the coupler. And Joe Batera, he's talking about his question. He says, like the Estes Extreme. I have no idea what the Estes Extreme is, so let's look it up. Hopefully, Joe, this is a new kit. Let me spell Estes. Estes Extreme. Extreme. Okay, it's looking it up. Okay, so here is the rocket. And I'm not seeing a ring on this thing. Joe, you got to help me out. If you have a picture, put it in the comments. I am not seeing it. Let me see here. Sometimes Estes has the instructions, so let's look in the instructions. Oh, he's got a mylar ring? Is that what you're talking about? A ring to go on the outside of a tube? Okay, okay, that makes more sense now. So, some motor retainer and rings the outside versus the engine retainer. I'm assuming you mean like this mylar ring that they put around the engine mount. I don't see any other ring. Okay, so that is actually pretty easy. So let me open a design. And I'll open the Estes Mars Longship. And so here in the engine mount, we're going to have an engine hook, and we're going to put a mylar ring around that engine. I don't even see any centering rings in here. Ring tail, body tube. Okay, so this is the engine mount tube right there. Okay, so let's put a ring around that tube, because just like what we saw in the Estes instructions, there's over here, there is a mylar ring that goes around there. So that is a special component, and it's called a sleeve. So it's not a pod, it's a sleeve. So if you click on the sleeve button, and it's kind of like, instead of a coupler that goes inside two tubes, it goes on the outside. So we have a 24 millimeter here. This is the one that we sell here at Apogee. We use this in some kits, like the Grappler has that. And click OK. And if I zoom in, let me make this bigger. So right now it's so here, this black line right here is the engine mount tube, and then this blue line, let me change the color of that so you can see it. So come here to color, let's choose red. Okay, so this right here is the sleeve, and if we go to the general and we change the length, and you know, like on that image, they showed it pretty short, probably about 1/4 of an inch. And then you just take it and slide it where you want it to go. And it automatically, well, this was picking from the database, but if I check that box, the ID would probably change. So let's check it and see what happens. Yeah, see, it checked it a little bit. Let me uncheck it. It stayed the same. It overrode the actual dimension of that part. And then you have to specify the material, and that's spiral glassine, that mylar. So that's what they call it. It's actually mylar with glassine over the top of it. So you just change that, and that changes the density, which changes the mass of that part. And then you can change the name of it. You can call it the engine mount hook, engine mount, engine hook sleeve, and click OK. Okay, so that added it. All right. And Joseph Batera says, yes, it's exactly what he was talking about. Let me zoom out here. Okay, so there's that part, and it's highlighted up here. If you would like to add some centering rings to that, you highlight the part you're going to attach it to. And let's find centering ring over here. You click on centering ring. It's looking in the database. I don't know what diameter. I'm pretty sure that's a BT60 kit, but I'm going to click cancel out of that and just let RockSim automatically calculate it. And I don't know if you can see that thin blue line right there, but that is the centering ring so far. Let me change the color again so you can see it a little bit easier. Make it a bright pink. And let's thicken it up a little bit. Let's make it 0.048, which is the thickness of thin cardboard. And let's change the location. And I'm going to slide it. As I'm sliding it, watch what happens to the inside diameter up here when I get over the top of the engine tube right here. So I'll just keep sliding it, sliding it, sliding it, and then all of a sudden that inside diameter changes to match the outer diameter of the tube. So now we can call this the forward centering ring. I need to select the material. And I'm going to choose paper. And I don't know what 3D color it's going to be. Let's make it white. Click OK. And now we have the ring right there. Let's look at it in 3D. Oh, it crashed again. Ouch. Reopen. Well, that's how you would add centering rings. So do we have any more questions? No. No new ones, but I think Mark Sell had a question about subassemblies. And his question was, how do you create a subassembly like an eBay inside of a nose cone? So if you have a nose cone on your rocket, you probably wouldn't put one in a small rocket, but you would definitely put one in if like typically what it would be used in like a short stubby nose cone or a short stubby rocket. So we have a giant nose cone and we could build an eBay inside of this so we could do dual deployment. Just putting my nose cone back over here. And his question was, how do you make an eBay inside of a nose cone? So let's bring up that 4-inch nose cone again. Nose cone. Let's go back down to the lock since they had a 4-inch nose cone. Well, actually, Apogee has a 4-inch nose cone. Where is our nose cone? It's a 98mm one right there. Click OK. And so this created the nose cone, and it's all the dimensions are there. You can change the color if you'd like. Make it red. Click OK. I'm going to change it to 3D. Oh, I changed the 2D color. I didn't change the 3D color. Let's change it to red as well. Click OK. So now we got a 3-inch nose cone. So inside of this nose cone, we're going to build an eBay. So we're going to create a subassembly. So over here, there's a button called subassembly. So we're going to click on that. And is the subassembly to be owned by the nose cone? As we talked about this in one of the previous episodes, and we decided we want to say no. So say no, and it brings up its own placeholder right here. So this is a placeholder. So to this subassembly, we're going to attach parts. So let's call it the eBay subassembly. And I'll click OK. All right, so I'm going to save this design just in case we lose it. And I'm going to save it to my desktop so I know where it is. I'm going to call it eBay kit build because I'm going to build into it. I'll click Save. And now we're going to start adding parts into this. And now it's not letting me add any parts into this. So I'm going to delete the subassembly. Say yes. I'm going to add it back. And this time I'm going to say yes. eBay subassembly. This is how you learn how to do things, is just by experimenting. Because I couldn't add any parts to it, that is why I had to delete it and add it back. So now I'm going to start adding parts to it. So let's say we're going to add an inside tube to this, and I'm just kind of guessing here. I'm not sure how Mark is building his eBay inside the nose cone, but I'm going to change the length of it right here. I'm going to change the location, and you can change the material. Say OK. And inside of that, maybe we want to put in some bulkheads on the end of that. So I'm adding some bulkheads. I'm going to cancel out of the database. Make this window bigger too. And the material, we're going to say let's make it G10 fiberglass and give it a thickness. Ooh, that's like way too thick. So there it is inside of that tube. Since we have it automatically calculating the known values, that is where it's going to be. I want to leave it right here at the end of the tube. So I'm going to say OK. But I'm going to change the name to forward bulkhead because I like to name things. And there it is inside of the tube. And I'm going to duplicate that because I'm going to put one on the back end too. So I'm going to copy it. And then I'm going to come up here to the body tube and then paste it into there. So now it pasted a new one in there. So there's two of them, and they're on top of each other. So we need to edit this back one right here. Change the location, change the name. Rear bulkhead, and change the location. Let's change it to the base of the owning part, and then just type in a 0, and this ring right here is going to jump right back here when we hit the tab key. So it jumped right back there. It remembered all the other important parts about it, like it's made out of fiberglass. So we'll click OK. All right, so now we have a rear bulkhead. And maybe you might want to put something on the inside of it, maybe a mass object for your altimeter inside of it. So I'm going to click cancel out of the database, and we'll call it the altimeter mass. And then we're just going to change the location. I'm going to put it like right in the middle. But we do need to give it some mass. Let's call it 30 grams. I don't know what it's going to weigh. We're just picking numbers out of the air, and click OK. All right, so now I'm going to save the design, and now we've got to save the subassembly. And to do that, we open it back up, and we're going to give it a file name. And the file name can be the same as the other name. And we're going to save this to a file. And I'm going to say save it to a file. And it's going to ask me where I want to put it. So I'm going to call it the eBay subassembly. And I'm going to put it on my desktop so I know where it is, and click Save. So now it is saved, and I'll click OK. So now let's open up a new design. So I'm going to start a new design. And I'm going to say no because I've already saved this. Oh, and it crashed again. Good thing we saved it. Brian Barbalis says, not quite ready for prime time. I think he's talking about RockSim because it's crashing. So we've crashed 3 times today. Yesterday we were pounding on it and pounding on it and pounding on it, trying to get it to crash, and it wouldn't crash. Today, I'm doing the simple things and it is crashing. So hold off until you see 3.1, because I know you don't want this to happen to you. 10.3. 10.2 is really stable right now, except for in a very few instances. And we think we know what the problem is in the preferences in RockSim. If you come over here to miscellaneous and not miscellaneous, under 3D rendering, you have to, all that new feature that we just created, we're pretty sure that this is what's causing the problem. Enable 3D part selection. Let me turn that off and see if it's more stable. Okay, so we're going to create a new design. We've got that old subassembly saved. So we're going to start with a new design because that's the purpose of subassemblies. I'm clicking on the button expecting it to bring up a new window, but the window is already here. So we're going to start with the design components. This time I'm going to choose, instead of the Apogee 4-inch nose cone, we're going to choose that lock 3.9-inch, just to show that it's going into a new nose cone. Let me make this a little bit bigger. Oh, look at this. I guess I didn't expand it big enough, because now I'm seeing, well, I'm only seeing the outer diameter. I'm not seeing the inner diameter of this. Mad Cow also has a 4-inch. Let's choose that one. This one is 16.5 inches long, 4 inches. This has got to be outer diameter because I know for a fact that it is 4 inches. Click OK. So this brings up a lock nose cone. And we'll click OK. So now, oops, the thickness must be greater than 0. And it's talking about the wall thickness because it's specified as hollow. So I need to change, make it solid. Now change it to hollow. And now I can correct that. Let's make it 0.07. And once we hit the tab key, we're going to see the mass change right down here. So it's a 200 gram. If you don't know what the thickness is, you just keep adjusting this wall thickness right here until it matches the mass of the actual nose cone. And so let's click OK. So now we have the nose cone here, and let's see if we can add that subassembly. So we're going to choose subassembly, and we'll say yes. And let's try to load parts from a file and see what happens. Oops, okay. I'm clicking on Windows too fast here. Let's look on the desktop, because that's where I had my eBay subassembly saved. I'm going to click on that and say open. And it did load the subassembly into the rocket. Let me, but it's in the wrong location. So at this point, now we just have to adjust the location to where we want it to go. And I'm just kind of sliding it back and forth until I get it to where I think I want it to be. And click OK. And it crashed. Okay. But we did see it work. We did see the subassembly work. Let me see if I have any more questions. Al Anzik, let me go to the Apogee website. So you're staring at something useful rather than a instruction sheet from Estes. Okay, so I'm looking over here on the monitor and seeing if there's any new questions here. Tom McNown says, is there a problem with the print going to be, is the problem with the print going to the printer and not a PDF file been fixed? Tom, it wasn't a problem. It's a little checkbox, and if the checkbox is said that's checked that says send it to a printer, it is going to send it, or send it to a PDF. It will send it to a PDF instead of the printer. So let's open a design. Let me turn this off here. Quit. Because we're getting pop-ups here. So let's open up a design, and let's go with an Sonda B. Just open this. So here's a rocket, and what Tom was asking is, does it print to a PDF? So let's find a part we want to print. So let's go to print. So we're going to choose print. Right now everything is checked, so I'm going to uncheck everything. Let's say I wanted to print a centering ring, and I don't know which centering ring this is, but I want to print that centering ring. I don't want to print a list, so uncheck that. And I don't want to print rocket information, so uncheck that. Oops, I do want to check that, because if I don't check that, it won't print this. And make sure it says you're printing a template, and it's going to be this centering ring. And then come over here to additional settings, and there's a little checkbox right here that says print to PDF format. And make sure that is unchecked, because if you don't uncheck it, it's going to print it to a PDF. So let me do it right here. If I click OK, it is now sending it to my printer. So from here I can select which printer I want to print to, and then I say print, and then in like 5 minutes somebody might come into the door and say, Tim, here's the thing that you just printed. Or you can print to a PDF. So here this time let's check print to a PDF, and I'll say OK. And so this looks a little bit different, but I'm going to say print. Even though it looks like it's going to a printer, it's going to print to a PDF. So if I click print right here, it says printing to this location as a PDF. So this is in my applications folder, inside the RockSim application folder, and then in PDF prints. I'm going to click OK. And then I need to go to that folder. Okay, so I need to navigate into the applications folder, into RockSim 10.3. And inside of there, like it just told me, there's a folder called PDF prints right here. And I can open that. And then here is the file that was just printed. And I click open it. And this is a what you'd expect your page to look like. There's the full-size centering ring, and then we can print it. And the question that people always ask is this an actual full-size drawing? And unless I actually print it out, I can't tell. But if I open it up in a drawing program like Adobe Illustrator, and so down here at the bottom I got Adobe Illustrator, and I'm going to just drag that into Adobe Illustrator. Okay, and it brought up Adobe Illustrator, and you can see here is my centering ring. And if I select the outer diameter, I can actually see the dimensions of it. So it's a height of 0.95 and a width of 0.95 and a height of 0.95. So that is the outer diameter. If I click on the inside one, I can see the inside 0.736 for both of those. And if I go back to RockSim, I'm kind of moving windows around here on you. And if I can find that centering ring, it was one of these rings, and it highlights it for me. And if I click edit, it gives me that dimension is 0.95 and 0.736. So yes, it is printing to the exact size of the centering ring. So if yours is not printing to the exact size, it's probably in your printer setup somewhere. Somewhere you've got, you know, reduce or enlarge by a percentage or scale to fit the paper, something like that turned on, which is causing the problem. Okay, let me go back to my questions. Bert Kowak writes, 4 strikes and you're out. Yeah, so we're gonna release a bug fix to try to fix all these issues. So if you haven't downloaded RockSim 10.3.0, wait until there's a 10.3.1, and we will have those fixed. Joe Nobles is asking, should we hold off on downloading 10.3.1? No, you should not hold off on 10.3.1. 10.3.0 is the one that I'm using right now. 10.3.1 is the new version. And I'm thinking about this, and I'm thinking that maybe some of our staff has already released 10.3.1. So if it's already been released, I am hesitant, because we've had 4 different crashes, and it's been saving files and changing from 2D to 3D, which is causing a crash. So let's take a look at that. Sydney Baker says, when will RockSim Pro be available? So RockSim Pro. So what is RockSim Pro? Let me open up RockSim Pro so you know what I'm talking about here. So RockSim Pro looks a lot like RockSim. And I'm sure Sydney Baker probably knows what it's about because he wants it really bad. So let's open up a rocket design. Let's open up the Apogee Skymetra, which is a 2-stage rocket. So here it is down here. And let's look at it in 3D. Okay, so here's the 3D. And you can't see that it's, because the fins are the same color, you can tell that right here is the bottom stage. Let me turn off the bottom stage and just look at just the top stage. If I do that, it drops the bottom stage. Now you can see that the fins are different. Okay. So when you go, the big difference is when you're running simulations. So all the design stuff, so everything that we've talked about today, which has all been about designing rockets, that is identical in RockSim Pro. The difference is in the simulations. So if we go to load an engine, let me close out of Illustrator, see if I can speed things up here. My machine seems a lot slower than normal. I've got 2 cameras running, plus 2 monitors, plus about half a dozen programs going on right now. And my fan right now is like, it's like really chugging, generating a lot of heat because I'm doing a lot of stuff. So I have 2 stages. This is the top stage and this is the bottom stage. And we're going to choose engines. And I'm just going to choose, I'm looking for an Estes C6 because everybody knows what an Estes C6 is. And I'm going to select a delay here of 7 seconds for the upper stage. It hangs out the back, 0.5 inches. And there it is in the rocket. I also want to put a C6 in the bottom stage, but I need to be a C6-0. But a quick way to do it is you just come up here, you highlight the engine, and you say load all, and it just loaded it also into the bottom stage right here, but the delay is wrong. So I can just change the delay. Come on. Make that a 0-second delay. And I'll go to flight events. And I'm going to do staging. See, in RockSim, you stage, it's an automatic staging based on the delay of the motor. But in RockSim Pro, you actually have a little bit more control when you want to stage. But in this case, I want to stage right when it burns out. So I'm going to use maximum ejection delay. Remember, our motor in the booster is a 0-second delay. So as soon as it burns out, it's going to fire off the ejection charge to ignite the upper stage. And then the parachute, we're going to change that one to deploy a maximum ejection delay. And again, remember we had a 7-second delay in there. So at 7 seconds, we should see the parachute come out. And then this screen is also different in RockSim Pro. We have our angle, so we can angle the launch rod, and we're going to angle it 4.5 degrees from vertical. And we also can change the azimuth angle. The azimuth is a compass, so we got north is straight up, east is to the right, south is down, and west is over here. So by this, I'm saying I am kind of launching more east. And then simulation controls, just leave that alone. Launch conditions, this is where we're going to pick a launch site. I am not sure where this launch site is, so it's somewhere at 527 feet above sea level. I am going to pick, let me see here. See if I can find one that looks really interesting. This one here is in Oregon, the Gorge Rocket Club. Okay, and it loaded its parameters. It's 1,497 feet above sea level. The temperature is that, and here's the latitude and longitude coordinates. And let's click flight profile. So here, it was when I clicked the button, is where the magic happens. So right now it's running the simulation. And then it's going to, when it's done running the simulation, it's going to bring up, instead of a 2D flight profile, which is kind of like watching a stick drawing of a rocket taking off, this is going to give me a 3-dimensional picture of the rocket taking off on our particular launch field. So remember, now you can see the beauty of this. You can actually see this was the rocket that we had just opened up, and you can see it in its 3D glory. And I can spin it around at any angle, look at it from the top or the sides or whatever. Right now I'm looking at it like a close-up view. So I click down here and I can zoom out and actually see the lay of the land. So in this particular area, we got a lot of fields over here, and it looks like there's a house like right there. There's a swimming pool right there. Or got some trees over there. I can zoom out. I can zoom out even further. It's loading the maps right now. And if you get lost, where is my rocket? I don't know where my rocket is. You just come over here to the home button, and it's kind of like, bring me home. Find my rocket for me. And it's doing this automatically, finding the location of the launch site. So there it is, sitting on the pad. I'm gonna change my camera view. Let's look at the rocket as if we're on the ground next to the rocket, like you were at an actual launch. I don't think I've shown this before. I can't zoom out. There's only one zoom level for that particular view. So if I try to zoom out, it gets lost. But if I click the launch button, the rocket's taking off and it's going away from me, just like in real life. But over here down at the bottom, I've got a different camera looking at the rocket. I can see what it's actually doing. And you can see the fins moving around down here. And so the parachute popped out because now you see this red dot. And I can't see the parachute here because this drawing doesn't allow me to zoom out far enough. But I can just see the ends of the shroud lines right there at the very tippy top. So then the rocket's coming down, and it's coming down slow. And as you're looking in the sky, there's not much to look at. So I'm going to change the view, and let's look at it from a static perspective. So now we're looking at it. This is the trajectory of the rocket. The green line here is the upper stage. The yellow one was the booster stage, where the booster stage was falling. And you can see it's it's still moving right there. It's still coming down. I'm going to take the slider bar here and I'm going to drag it all the way down to the ground. And it looks like it landed in this row of trees, and it says Trout Creek. I'm reading this upside down here. So it landed in the creek. And again, I can zoom around on this, look at it from any different angle. Let's see if we can find that booster stage on the ground. So I'm going to try to get the booster right in the middle of the screen, and I'm zooming in with my control wheel. And it always zooms right in the exact middle of the screen. So if I move it off to the side right here and I try to zoom in, it's going to zoom in not where I want to be. So you got to kind of move where you want to look towards the middle. And let's zoom in, zoom in, zoom in. Keep zooming in. And there is my booster stage right there on the ground. Which is cool. And if I look at it from the very top view, you can see my booster landed, the sustainer, which was this green line, that was the flight trajectory, and then the red was its ground path. They took a little bit different ground paths, which was really cool. So the question that he had, I love playing with RockSim Pro. It's just every day I discover something really cool. Yesterday, or the day before, I made a trajectory where the booster stage, so on this, I can kind of tell that the wind is blowing this direction, which is to the east from the west. Here's my compass down here where north is straight up. Let me rotate it around. So north is the black line and it points straight up. And you can kind of tell which direction the rocket is drifting, and it's always going to drift with the wind. It went this way. But yesterday, a cool design that I made, I had the booster section and the sustainer going in opposite directions like this. And I was like, how do you do that? And the answer is the booster stage, it was a tumble recovery. But instead of tumbling, it was starting to glide. And it glided into the wind. It was just a freak of nature. I don't know if I could ever replicate it again in the future, but it was just so cool. So the question is, when will it be available? And the answer is, we were working so hard on getting RockSim 10.3.0 out the door that then we can switch over to focusing solely on this right here, RockSim Pro. And it is pretty far along too. We think, we're crossing our fingers, that we don't have any more changes to make to the actual software other than fixing the bugs in 10.3.0. So now it's how do we release it? And so there's some issues that we have to put in on our website. RockSim Pro is going to be a subscription software because of this feature right here. I have to pay for these maps and all this stuff that you see here. And I have to pay on a monthly basis. So it's going to be a subscription service that you will purchase and pay month by month so that you can get all of this cool stuff. And we have to set that part up. We have to get all our ducks in order so we can bill on a monthly basis and make sure that everybody's credit cards are processed correctly and nobody's getting overcharged, nobody's getting undercharged. So that's what we're trying to get all that done. And then also I have to make a series of videos on how to use all this stuff. It's actually pretty simple to use, but you know, like what do all these buttons do over here? You know, like there's a button up here at the top. This gives me, I can change my smoke. I can change the color of the smoke. I can have one smoke for the thrust smoke. I can have another smoke for the tracking smoke. And then when I go to launch it, let me pause it and zoom in here so you can actually see what's going on. find the rocket. If you can't find your rocket, click on this button, find your rocket. There it is. Okay, so remember, delay smoke was blue, thrust smoke was white. So something happened here, and I think this is where the booster stage fell off. And so if we move up a little bit further, okay, so now you can see that the smoke has turned blue. So, you know, stage 1, stage 2, and now coasting phase right here, just like in a real rocket. And you can see the smoke is actually moving. It's drifting with the wind, another indication that we've got wind. And it's dissipating as it, you know, like it does in real life. It doesn't always stay there. And the smoke is dissipating, and now we're under parachute at this point right here. So that's the answer to that, is crossing our fingers within 1 month. So we are in the middle of June. So hopefully by the middle of July, it will be out the door. Okay, so there's a couple more questions that I'm going to hold off because we are actually long here. We've gone 1 hour and 10 minutes, and we only wanted to go an hour exactly. Marcel says, thanks for the education. I need to be more adventurous when I am working on my own designs. There are several ways to get RockSim to understand what I want. Yeah. Yes, there are multiple ways to do things, and we totally understand that. Yeah, we had a lot of fun today. I'm discovering new things about RockSim all the time. The subassemblies, see, the subassemblies we did today were different from the subassemblies we did in a previous episode. So I got to figure out what the dividing line is there, because I know there's got to be one. There's rules that RockSim follows, and I'm learning them too. And you know, the program is being developed to try to mimic real life. And sometimes you find out things like, you know, like booster sections can sometimes glide. And we've seen this in real life. We've all seen booster sections, you know, so they come off, instead of tumbling down, they can glide sometimes. And what causes them to glide? And that's the beauty of RockSim and RockSim Pro, is it gives you insights that you might not have thought about before, and now you want to explore them further. And it's a tool to help you explore further. So thanks for watching. I really got to end this episode because I know your time is valuable. I got to find the button here to end the live video. I see it, so I'm gonna click the end video in 3, 2, 1. Go out and launch something.